computer. Okie dokie. And you should now all be able to see my slideshow. Yes. And if you could all just mute yourselves for now, apart from Sarah, and then we'll invite you to unmute yourselves when we come to the discussion at the end. Right, I'm just having a little fiddle here. Oh, Lindy has just joined us, that's good. Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for our very first online presentation. As part of working towards being a plastic-free community, we need to run at least 2 public events in our first year. And normally you would expect those to be something like being at the Cotgrave Festival or at the Christmas lights switch on or whatever. And obviously none of those things are happening, and we've been driven online to do this. The beauty of it, of course, is that it means we can reach a far wider audience than we would normally have been able to do so. So, you know, there's swings and roundabouts to all of these. So this is the first one. We've got some ideas up our sleeves for some more in 2021, and hope that this all goes well for you all tonight. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to Sarah from The Simpler Life for joining in and making this all possible tonight, while we all have a look at what zero waste is and what it is and why it matters. I'm going to go through some sort of basic background stuff, and then Sarah will do the important stuff about her shop and how it works. Somebody's not muted there. If you wouldn't mind just checking you are muted, it will just make it a bit easier. Thank you. Sorry, that's not...
try the right arrow. Try the right arrow rather than the left.
Try this. Okay, so why do we need zero waste? Well, my answer to that question would be that it is our main way of avoiding choking up the environment with plastic, and it also avoids the need to recycle. And I know for a lot of us, when we first start out on this journey of trying to reduce the plastics and the single-use plastics in our lives, recycling is one of the things that first comes to mind for people. And it's brilliant that we have recycling, because the alternative is that those plastics go either into landfill or into incineration, depending on where you live, and neither of those are great options. The best option of all is to just not encourage the use of plastic any more than you really have to. And yes, there are certain situations where plastic is the obvious and cleverest thing to use, and it can be an absolutely fabulous product when it's used for those things. But those things that are in the picture there as food trays and bottles are all examples of maybe there would be an alternative. And by shopping zero waste, that basically is exactly what we're setting out to do our shopping without creating any waste at all, because we take our own containers along and may do that many times. They might be ancient Tupperware containers that you've had for donkey's years. They could be old margarine tubs or glass jars that your yogurt came in or whatever. And that you're going to use them over and over again. And thereby, there is no cost, there is no environmental cost other than you washing them out before you take them back to be refilled. And to me, that is the main reason why we need zero waste. But I'm sure that Sarah will talk also about some of the sort of economic reasons for it and other benefits that it has. So why are we inundated with plastic? Well, part of the problem, and this is a growing problem now, is that the plastics industry, the petrochemicals, the fossil fuels industries are losing their markets quickly as we increasingly turn to solar and wind and other sustainable forms of heating, as we increasingly start to use electric and hybrid cars, then their market is disappearing in front of their faces. And they've got to find a way to keep making money. Some of them are diversifying into other forms of energy. You may have seen there was an advert yesterday on the TV from BP and getting into sustainables. But the other way that they continue to create a market for their product is through the plastics industry. And they don't like recycling. Obviously they don't. They want to sell virgin plastic, as they call it, which is invariably shipped as pellets from either North America or the Gulf or other oil-producing nations into factories. There's a large factory in the northeast of England, for example, where the pellets are processed and turned into the plastics, which finds its way into the boxes and tubs and things that we all use. And it suits them well to continue fueling that, because this is how they continue to make their money as we turn away from fossil fuels in other ways. So the global environmental impact of plastics, of course, is massive, and we've all seen this. We've seen all of the, Hugh Bernie Whittingstall's programs and David Attenborough, and shocking pictures of our waste, the waste that we thought was going to be recycled and that we've dutifully put in our bins, and that has, in some local authority areas, been taken right around the world, adding to its carbon footprint, to nations who have quite enough of their own plastic to deal with, thank you very much, and have increasingly now started to close the door on that and say, thank you, no, we don't want yours as well, we've got our own to deal with. There's two ways of setting up the economy around all of this. On the left-hand side, we've got the kind of economy that we don't want, where we take raw materials from the environment, we make them into things, we use them, and then we dispose of them. And dispose could be recycling, it could be landfill, it could be thrown in a corner somewhere, thrown in a river, it could be landfill, it could be incinerator, but any of those ways will pollute, including recycling. On the right, we've got a circular economy. A circular economy puts the onus on the producer right from the beginning to think through what is going to happen to that item when it's past its sell-by date. So you start off at the top by making it, somebody uses it, ideally it is then reused, perhaps several or even many times, and then eventually remade into something else. And if you really, really have to, at the end of that, maybe some parts of it, you will have no option but recycle, but aiming to keep that to a real sort of minimum. The circular economy is particularly well thought through by Ellen MacArthur, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Remember Ellen, who sailed around the world and broke all the records which still stand? Her website's got an awful lot of information about the circular economy and how we can do a lot more. So it's not just around plastic. If you've seen tea mill sweatshirts and t-shirts, they're all made from recycled and repurposed cottons and linens and etc. There are various clothing manufacturers, other clothing manufacturers now, and we were looking at some doormats today and they were recycled. There's more and more stuff out there which can be recycled and then, you know, sent back to these people, the tea mill things. When you're finished with your t-shirts, you can send them back and they go back into the system, which prevents all the, you know, it's huge water usage in cotton production, and keeping all of that down. There is, of course, a carbon footprint in moving it all around. So obviously we aim not to do that any more than we really, really have to. So where can we find zero waste shops? Those of you who live in this area, which is about half of you, we have 4 within easy striking distance here of Cotgrave. And for those of you who've joined us from elsewhere tonight, there is a handy website called the Zero Waste Network, where you can put your postcode in and it will tell you where your nearest zero waste shop is. So it's over to Sarah, how to do zero waste. And Sarah, if you just tell me, I'll move this on when you need me to.
I'll do the next slide, please.
Okay, oh, like a pro, look at this.
Okay, so the Simpler Life then. It's quite a new venture for me. We've only been going 8 months, and it actually started off more of a personal journey than a zero waste shop initially. So I was actually a secondary science teacher up until Easter of this year, and I was running the Simpler Life via sort of craft fairs and local markets, selling things that I'd produced myself. So things that were reusable, things that were encouraging people to change from their disposable alternatives. But as I was sort of delving more into plastic and zero waste, especially through teaching, it's a big part of the science syllabus now for chemistry. We look at the carbon footprint, we look at recycling, we look at the impact of taking raw materials and turning them into new things. It just really started to get to me how much of an impact we were having on the environment and what changes we could make. It kind of got to crunch point. I either had to decide to make it a hobby or a career, and my health pushed me towards making it a career and coming away from teaching, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster since the end of March. So the pictures you can see at the minute are the shop as it currently looks. We're lucky that we're on one of the main roads in Keyworth, right next to the post office, so we get a lot of foot traffic. But we also get a lot of people travelling from Cotgrave and from the outer villages, Weissel, Widmerpool. I've even had people come from Melton because they couldn't get something somewhere else, so they've come all this way to get it zero waste. But yeah. Half the shop is sort of geared towards food and refilling your containers with rice and pasta, oats, flour, muesli, spices, herbs, anything you could possibly think of, we've probably got it. And the other half of the shop is geared towards refilling your shampoo bottles or buying toothpaste that doesn't come in a plastic tube, a bar of soap, all those sorts of things. And it's quite nice to have them in 2 separate areas and keep them quite distinct. I think there's a few more pictures, Brenda.
Sarah, do you want to talk about how those hoppers work, if there's people who haven't seen them before?
So our dispensers.
Yes.
So these are great, especially for things like oats and rice that you'd spent, you know, if you tried to scoop them out of something, they would just go everywhere. Whatever you want to put them in, we weigh it first. These are great fun. I have to watch the kids like a hawk when they come in because all they want to do is pull the handles down. You fill your container and then we weigh it again, and they're so easy to use. I'd love to have more of them because it would make life so much easier for so many other things we've got, but they do take up quite a bit of space. So this is kind of the non-food end of the shop. So you should be able to see our array of sort of pump bottles. These are our the things we don't go through so much of, surface cleaner, shampoo, body wash, that sort of thing. And then in the window we've got some huge 20-litre containers. We've now moved over to Minimal, which produce a plant-based, completely natural alternative of everything you could possibly think of. And because we are within 100 miles of them, they come and collect the containers and take them back and reuse them, which is fantastic, and has been something we've been trying to get towards over these last couple of months, is not having to recycle them or find another use for them. They actually go back and get refilled again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Uh-huh. Now, this shocked me. I spent several hours going through all the orders and invoices that I've placed with suppliers to find out how much we'd bought of just a few bits and pieces, not everything. This list is not complete, and working out how much plastic we've actually saved. So looking at if you've come in and refilled a container versus buying it at the supermarket in a standard package. And it just, I mean, we've only been open 8 months and we've saved 1,100 plastic bottles for hand soap, just because people have been coming to fill them up instead of buying a new bottle. But even like the pasta, I didn't realise we'd gone through so much pasta. But simply by people coming and refilling, we've saved 612 plastic bags, thereabouts, of pasta. I mean, there's probably stuff we sell in the shop that we've saved even more plastic on. But yeah, that was a big shock. Even though I knew the whole concept of the shop and the idea that we were saving all this plastic, it was still quite impressive.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah. And a lot of these, they either these things are coming in paper bags, so huge 25-kilo paper bags, or cardboard boxes. And if they are coming with plastic, we are reusing it. So I know, like our sultanas, you can't get around it with dried fruit. If you put sultanas in a box, the box would fall apart because it would just get soggy from the fruit. But the plastic bags, we take them and we use them as bin bags, or we find another use for them, so they don't just go straight in the bin. But that is a lot of plastic that has
if you could see all of those items, those bags, as a pile, it would be huge, wouldn't it? We're talking about, John's probably, he's sitting next to me, he's good at maths, but we must be well over 3,000 pieces of packaging there, which if you imagine that would go well, sort of half fill the room I'm sitting in right now, I would think.
Definitely.
Moving on.
Yes, please. So going plastic free or zero waste it's a journey. It's not going to be perfect overnight. It is picking one thing at a time and doing the best you can with it. The worst you can do is to do nothing, essentially. So it's constantly making progress, not trying to be perfect, picking one thing at a time, not trying to do everything at once because it just becomes completely overwhelming. Buying things that are going to last rather than buying multiples of the same thing. Yes, it will be more expensive, but you won't buy so many over its lifetime or your lifetime. And just helping others as well, educating where you can, and not being afraid to ask for help if there's something that you're not quite sure about. I mean, I am by far, I'm no expert. I'm learning as I go, basically. But I will, if I don't know the answer, I will find it. And we're all in it together. It is not about being perfect. It is just about doing what you can.
Indeed. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the question and answer. So if you would like to unmute yourselves, please. And if you would like to speak, I'm just going to stop sharing this screen so I can see you all again. If you'd like to either raise a hand the old-fashioned way, or if you know how to do that in Zoom through your participant area, you can also raise a digital hand if you're feeling very whizzy. Either's fine. And we, well, Sarah predominantly, will attempt to answer your questions.
So we've got a question from Eleanor on the chat already. Now this is a hard one. There are shops that are designed to be completely zero waste, so they only sell things that are either packaging free or that you can refill them. And then you get shops that run that alongside something else. So near us, there's a shop in Bingham. They are a greengrocers originally and a vegan shop, but they do have refill options. So rather than having to go to the next town or village, you can refill some of your things there. And the Bottle Top in Riddington is very similar. Their main focus is beer, but they again have a range of plastic free and refillable options too. So it depends how much you're willing, not compromise, but are you willing to travel to have a shop that's completely zero waste, or are you happy to use the one that's on your doorstep that perhaps doesn't have such a big range? So that I think the range is probably the difference between them.
And Kent is a huge county, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it's easy to forget how big Kent is. And yes, obviously, it stops being green, doesn't it, if you have to travel miles and miles to go to your local zero waste shop. If I am going to Bingham or going to West Bridgeford, I will take my zero waste shopping with me and do it as part of that, as you would say, well, I'm going to drop in at this and that and the other while I'm there, and would generally not make a dedicated trip for it for that reason. Also, some of the big supermarkets have started to experiment with this. Waitrose have put those hoppers into some of their shops and are trialling that. I haven't been in one where that's happening, but some of you might have. And some Asdas also have started to experiment with it. So it is because, oh, and there's this new loop system where you can sign up and they provide you with the containers. I think they're generally metal containers. So you order your cornflakes or your raisins or whatever, they come in a dedicated box, which you then rinse out and put back on your doorstep in a special bag, and their delivery van comes round and drops off your next order. Now, again, you know, we could all think of, oh, so many environmental reasons why that maybe isn't a great thing. But if it means the difference, as Sarah was saying, you know, people just trying a bit, trying a few ideas, it might be that somebody starts off that way, gets hooked on it, thinks, you know what, this isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Maybe I'll try my zero waste shop. It might be a kind of halfway house for some people. Is there anybody who's tried any of those that I've just mentioned, Waitrose, Asda or Loop? Carol?
Well, I haven't tried any of those, but I have tried the one we have here, the Modern Milkman, who will bring you washing liquid, you know, laundry liquid and a few other things. I haven't actually used this. I did buy one. It comes in a little bottle. Weight for weight, it seems about bit dearer than just buying a big enormous thing of Persil or whatever. Haven't tried it yet because I've still.
So does the Modern Milkman then take those containers back?
Yeah, but it's only a small thing. My worry is, of course, that it's the weight involved in the glass bottle. is, you know, going to put the load up, you know, on the.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Modern Milkman started at some farms in Yorkshire and Lancashire, and I've just started delivering in Staffordshire and Nottinghamshire. So we are getting local milk, well, from Staffordshire anyway, because most of the milkmen, despite the fact we can look out and see cows everywhere around us, most of the milk dairy farms around here are tied up with the big dairies. So all our milk comes from somewhere else. But it is a farm in Hoscombe and Staffordshire, and I did buy butter, and I was so excited because I know the farm in Yorkshire that it came from, and I've been through it. I don't know the people, but I've been on the footpath through the farm many times, and I was really excited, which shows how lockdown's getting to us. But the Modern Milkman it's called, and I haven't tried it, but I'll let you know.
Okay, I'm going to go to Sally next, and then John, who is sitting next to me, also has a question. Sally?
I use Milk and More, who I think may have been the co-op originally. I'm not sure about that. They do a doorstep delivery, and they do a few other things. I tend just to stick the milk and the orange. But something else I've started to use this year is something called Smol. I think it's SMOL, and this is you sign up and you get your washing machine liquid, and it comes through the post in a cardboard box, and it's small individual capsules which I'm told they dissolve in your washing machine, and it's relatively inexpensive, and you can have as much or as little as you want, and it's non-biological, so that's worked for me. I've used the cereal from the Good Way in West Bridgford, but I'm very interested now to try the Keyworth shop. And basically I take along an old Tupperware container and a small plastic box. And the joy for me is that I can choose a muesli base, oats, cranberries, nuts, whatever I like, and it all goes into the bigger box once it's been weighed, coconut. And it's quite personal to what I like, and I'd recommend it.
Thank you, Sally. Yeah. John?
Just a comment there about the 3,000 odd pieces of plastic that Sarah's saved in 8 months. Even if you just allow 10 grams per item on average there, that amounts to 30 kilos of plastic saved already, which is, over a year, not far short of 50 kilos.
Yeah.
Which is a hell of a lot of stuff in my mind.
And that's only sort of 8 items within the shop. One day I'll have to work it out properly.
Yeah.
do everything.
Absolutely. Wouldn't it be great? I don't know if there's any way of doing it, maybe with a school or something, to actually get some people to save even 1,000 items of, what do 1,000 items of plastic look like? 1,000 mixed bags. I mean, this maybe could be something we could do, you know, in the brave new world that awaits us one day, you know, that time when we communicate with people again. It would be, I think, very graphic to see that as a huge pile of bits.
We can certainly show you what 1,000 crisp packets look like.
Yes, anytime you like.
I brought you 1,000.
And I've got 1,000 sitting here as well.
Oh, lovely. Yes. Yeah, I think something you were saying there, Sally, is to me one of the big advantages of zero waste shopping is the ability to buy small quantities of things. You know that thing that the TV cooks are always telling us, particularly the ones that, you know, the Asian and Southeast Asians, who say, you can't believe it, you go in English homes and in the back of the cupboard there's some old turmeric they've had since 1975, and it's so old it's not worth using any longer. I can take my jar along to a zero waste shop and buy that much turmeric if that's what I want to do, and use it up quickly and go back and buy that much turmeric again, so that things in my cupboard are really, really fresh. And you know, I think people obviously say, well, is this going to be the more expensive alternative? But it's not, is it, Sarah? Would you like to talk about that a bit more?
The standard sort of herb and spice jars that you buy from the supermarket probably cost you about £1, £1.50, depending on what you're buying. I filled one up with mixed herbs the other day. I think to fill it up cost about 14p. So for those things, you know, even if they're organic, it is significantly cheaper than buying a whole new jar every time.
Yes, yeah, because you haven't bought the jar, basically, have you? You know, all of these costs are built in, aren't they? And we forget, we've come to accept it, but we buy this stuff over and over again. It has the weasel word recyclable on it, and a lot of them, glass not obviously being an example, but a lot of others think, well, I've checked inside my bin lid and this is not recyclable where I live. It may be somewhere else, but it isn't here. So yeah.
Can I just add there that it's also worth considering that if you're reusing a glass jar, you're not buying the embodied carbon that you would buy with buying a new jar. And that is very significant for a substance like glass or aluminium or even steel containers.
Every new container has a high carbon footprint. So
has a high carbon footprint. The embodied carbon is tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah, because as Carol said earlier, particularly if they're being, you know, carted around the countryside, it's not just the carbon footprint of making it, but the weight of transporting it as well. So these things are always very, very complicated though, aren't they? I think all of us, the more we've got into this, we've realised increasingly there's always another side to everything. But yeah.
Just to amplify that point a little bit, you all probably have heard in the past we used to have a firm called Metal Box in the UK, which I'm not sure whether it operates now, but you can practically guarantee that even if a food product is made in Britain, the cans it's made in, it's put in, probably come from somewhere like the Czech Republic or somewhere like that, or possibly even China.
The empty cans.
Yeah, the empty cans, the new cans that thing is packed in will come from somewhere like the Czech Republic probably.
I've found that I do my zero waste shopping a very different way. I do try to be a shopping list person rather than just rock up and, you know, buy what you fancy shopper. So that was always my way to have a list on the side in the kitchen, and we both added to it when we needed things. What I do now is in my infamous basket, which I keep in the cloakroom, as and when something gets emptied, like the other day I finished my rapeseed oil, give the bottle a rinse out, put it in the basket ready, so I know when I get to the zero waste shop what I want. I know it's going to be rapeseed oil, or if it's sultanas, it'll say sultanas on the top of the box. And I find that very easy. It actually is its own list and dedicated containers that have just gone round and round the loop many times now, and that seems to work quite well. Some things I have two of. I have two of rapeseed oil, so that as one is emptying, I can take the other and never completely run out. That's the hyper level of organisation to do that.
You're sort of informing me of things I've never thought about recycling, like oil bottles. I've got one in the blue bin at the moment. I could take it out and wash it and use it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And remember to take the little stopper out of the top, because if you don't, when you get to the, look at Sarah's face, when you get to the zero waste shop and you try to make the thing work and there's oil everywhere, and you talk about the children with stuff all over the floor. It happens to grown-ups as well.
When you take a bottle, a fresh stopper's put in. Is it how does that work then?
There's like a little plastic stopper in the top so that it doesn't all just come rushing out of the bottle, and you just hoik it out with a knife or something, a pair of pliers, and then the filler will fit properly inside the bottle and the oil will flow in as opposed to going out all over the floor.
It's the one you'd pull out when you first open the bottle. So once you've unscrewed the lid, it's got almost like a ring pull inside. You have to make sure that's completely out, otherwise it's a nightmare to fill up.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yes, yeah.
It's
Or
that.
I can manage with those. It's the actual covering that goes over it initially that's the problem.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Can I put a question to you, to all of you? What's the hardest thing you found to change or to get rid of the plastic from?
Well, for me, it's more not. You can't always be super organised, and sometimes I need something and I need it today, and I'll go to the co-op and buy a packet of potatoes in plastic. I like to use that little shop in West Bridgeford near the hospice shop where you can just use paper bags or take my own bags. But a lot of the time, if I need something, I need it. So I'm not always 100% organised. So it's more that than a particular product, you know.
Yeah, they say the best thing for food-wise, for being plastic-free and zero waste, is to meal plan, so that you've got everything you need before you start, and then you can choose where you buy it from.
I think
What about yogurts?
Apart from the really expensive ones that you can sometimes get from the milkman in a glass jar, I have yet to find an alternative that doesn't come in a plastic tub.
Yeah, you're quite right. Milk and More do River Cottage, which is Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall's operation. They do large glass jars of plain yoghurt and small glass jars of flavoured yoghurt. It's certainly not the cheapest yoghurt you've ever bought, that's for certain, but it does generate a fabulous array of glass jars. Which are wonderful for Christmas presents as well. And also M&S, I've seen small glass jars of yoghurt in there, although they do have a plastic top. But again, they're very useful little jars for herbs and spices, or, you know, if you're into making jams and stuff. Carol?
I was just going to say, making your own yogurt is incredibly easy. I've done it in the past. I don't do it later. I don't like yogurt, but I used to do it with the kids little. And if I can do it, anybody can do it, I assure you.
Thank you.
Can I just say my biggest gripe is the plastic punnets. I eat a lot of soft fruit, blueberries, strawberries every day. And every time I open one of those punnets, it just kills me. You know, this is yet another plastic punnet that I am going to stack in my garage, because what else do I do with it?
Well, the good news in Cotgrave is that you can take them to Kerry's.
Oh, can you?
Yes.
Oh, I've got loads. I'll need a trailer.
It would be polite to do it as part of going there to shop, I suppose. But they send their punnets back, and Gillian at Kerry's has said she's very happy to take them and put ours in with her recycling.
Oh, right. That's very good. That's interesting. That is. I'll certainly try that.
All sizes? Do they take all sizes?
Yeah, because it's all the same. Not actually recyclable plastic, although it might say on the bottom that it is, you know.
Widely recycled, it says.
There is somewhere in Nottingham, it is Nottingham City Council, so I don't know whether they would take them. You can take things like meat trays, you know, from chicken and things like that. And I think the fruit punnets as well, you can take there. But I don't know whether they'll take from the county council areas. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No.
I just use mine as seed
No,
trays.
they won't.
Do you know about it, John?
Yes, I know that for a fact.
Right.
Yeah.
John's saying no. Why do they say no?
Because city council tips are only for city council residents. In the same way that county council tips are only for county residents.
Right.
If you know someone that lives in the city council, you could always get them.
Swap.
But I reuse mine. I reuse them as seed trays for my allotment. So that's another way to.
That's the other thing, isn't it? To find a reuse. Emma, what's it like in Leicester? Have you got any stories from Leicester for us?
There is one zero waste store in Leicester. It's literally in the town centre. So the idea of me coming from South Wixton and driving into town, and there's no parking outside it, it's like literally the pedestrian bit of it. So unless you're really, really willing to carry a lot of stuff and a lot of glass jars to get it filled up, the only way I can see it working is for the students that live there. Because a lot of students live like in the town centre, so I can imagine it works for them. But it would make so much sense if there was a store that was like where, you know, it's laid where you guys are, actually along a parade of shops where you can park outside. There's loads of opportunities in Leicester for that to happen, but whether anyone's going to do it or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the biggest waste in this household is my guilty pleasure is buying biscuits, and also the whole buying crisps as well. So like you, I'm saving crisp packets for doing like this crisp packet project, doing the blanket thing to the homeless people. I've got loads of them stacked up. But I tried to make my own crisps, I've tried to make my own biscuits, and they're just not as good as the shop ones. So sometimes I just have to just bow down to the fact they're going to have to buy them.
Yeah.
But
as Sarah said, we can't all be perfect all the time, and we mustn't punish ourselves for what we can't do, must we? You know, it's what we can do and what we do that matters. Carol?
I was just going to say, when I lived in Lancashire, we had still have a very big Asian thing. I haven't lived there for, 5 years now. But the place to go for loose stuff was the Asian shops. I don't know if that's still the case, and I don't know if it's the case in Leicester, but I would have thought it's worth a try. When things are, settled down a bit, when we can go happily into any shop we like.
Browsing.
At least be able to get herbs and spices or big bags of rice from those sorts of places, and probably beans and certain flours. It would be a start, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I mean, they may now, of course, all be in plastic. I don't know, because it's a long time since I've been in one.
But at least, as Sarah says, if you're buying a large bag, it's better to buy one big bag of something than multiple small bags, and decant it for yourself, even be your own zero waste almost. Corey, I don't know if you can hear us okay there in Bedford. What's the situation with you?
Corey's on mute, isn't she?
Yeah, Corey, you'll need to take your mute off there if you can. Or Corey, if you're unable to do that, maybe you can write something into the chat for us and let us know how it is in Bedford, if you've got any zero waste shops or anything that... thanks, Eleanor. It's changed my plans for buying. Look at that. Off she goes. Corey, please do drop something in the chat if you're able. We'd love to hear from you. Somebody else who hasn't spoken. Pip, have you got anything to add? You need to unmute yourself.
We don't have any shops like that. There are no shops like that at all.
Where do you live, Pip?
Well, I live in a village, but I'm near Nuneaton and near Atherstone. But none of those shops they don't do it.
No. Do you think there might be any, do you ever go to supermarkets or whatever in places like Nuneaton?
Yes, but they don't have any dispensers.
No.
No. Nothing like that.
You can take your own containers from Morrison's, and they'll give you meat and fish in your own container. Chickens, I think for safety, they leave it in plastic, because of Campylobacter. So chicken's always in plastic.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there are other considerations, aren't there? There are food safety considerations with certain types of foods, and there are food waste issues as well, aren't there? And that's Lorraine, why we've got this issue with soft fruit, isn't there? That usually it's rare to be able to buy soft fruit and just put it in a paper bag and take it home. It's invariably in a punnet of some sort. And maybe that's, you know, one of those times, you know, right at the beginning when we said sometimes plastic is a good thing. And although it breaks your heart every morning to open up your blueberries, and at least now you found some way to take them, but it is preventing food waste, isn't it? So what do you think?
But they can be recycled. Those can be
Yes.
recycled. The black ones can't.
Recycling bin, they can't.
We can't recycle them here,
Oh,
Pip, can you?
oh, we can. We can, yeah.
Yeah,
But not anything black.
no.
But other than that, most things, yeah.
Thankfully, most supermarkets are moving away from the black and dark coloured ones now. The problem with it was, it's nothing wrong with the plastic, it's the machine. When it goes down the conveyor belt, it can't see it, yeah.
At the moment, is there a lag between food containers sometimes are not black, but what do you do with them? You can't put the blue bin, can you? And certainly not in Rushcliffe. It just I thought you still had to throw them away.
I struggled to hear all of that, Liz. If anybody else heard what Liz said, could you just respond to her, please?
Somebody's got the TV on in the background. Could you just mute your device if you've got the TV on?
Is Joe listening to the telly?
Joe is not in here.
Unfortunately, black plastic, the only thing you can do with it is throw it in the bin, unfortunately.
But you know, I get some meals from Cook, a nice frozen food shop. They're not using black plastic now. Their plastics are sort of very pale, creamy turquoise.
It still can't go in your recycling bin. That's the sort of thing you'd be able to take to the site in Nottingham, but we're not allowed to because we don't fall under the city council.
We could take any plastic in our bins, any plastic.
There you are, because different local authorities have got a different contract with a waste disposal firm, which here for us is Veolia, and they lay down the law basically as to what can and can't be recycled, which is based, it goes back to money again. It's what they can then sell on, and they don't want the stuff they can't sell. And that's why in Northamptonshire you've got a different setup, because you've got a different waste disposal company who've got different contracts, who can sell stuff that Veolia can't. And that's the madness of it. The good side, in the days when we were able to travel, is that let's say your sister lives somewhere that can recycle something that you can't, you can juggle. Crazy stuff, isn't it, to be doing when you visit your sister? But I know a lot of people do that kind of thing.
No idea, not thought of that.
June, you haven't said anything yet.
Well, I'm a convert to Sarah's shop anyway, aren't I, Sarah?
Yeah.
I'm a regular customer. So I find probably one of the most difficult things about it is the storage. You've got to think all the time about your containers. You know, when you're running down on something, you need to refill, and I always have to label all my containers, else when I get to Sarah's shop I can't remember what I was going to put in each container. But yes, I think it's great. It's a great system.
How long would you say it's taken you to sort of get into the new way of shopping, as it were?
Yeah, okay. Well, it certainly took quite a few months. And I think it was probably a bit gradual. You know, I was still buying some stuff elsewhere. But I think now I am buying whatever I need that Sarah stocks. I am getting there. I go about once a fortnight usually, I think. Yeah, I think it's excellent.
Can I just ask Sarah, where does your flour come from, Sarah?
65% of it is from Green's Windmill in Sneinton. The rest of it is the Dove's Farm flour, because Sneinton Mill only do sort of bread flours. They don't do your standard plain and self-raising.
Is there anything that anyone who is a zero waste shopper has not been able to get? This is your chance to say to Sarah, you know, I wish you stocked X or Y. I would love to buy that. Hand cream refills.
Got that.
Have you got it? Hey. Great.
There you go. There's one thing for you.
I like celery seed. If you can get a celery seed, I'll be in there every day. I use an awful lot of it. Huh?
I'll have to have a look.
Yeah. When I would be going into town, I used to get it from that, what's it called, the Mad Nut House. I used to buy all my stuff there. And he has celery seed, and, well, I haven't been in there for, since last November, well, a long time ago. I forget. I only just learned how to get round Notting when I can't do it anymore. I go with the map.
Sarah, are you open tomorrow?
Yes.
I might come and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, we're open 6 days a week. Slightly shorter on a Saturday, but we're definitely open tomorrow.
Thank you.
So strike while the iron's hot, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so got a last slide here for you of 1 or 2 places you can go to for more information. There's loads of books out there, and I'm sure Sarah will have some other suggestions. B. Johnson is very American, but it's something to aspire to. She has an entirely zero waste home, and that is an incredible read. And you know, there's no way I could achieve a lot of the things that B has done, but as with all of these things, you come away and you think, well, I can't do this and this, but I can do that and that, and it starts to sort of trickle through your consciousness. Remember about Ellen MacArthur Foundation and the Circular Economy, and a really nice small read, very readable little read by Martin Corey is No More Plastic. And also Will McCullum, who works for Greenpeace. He is their oceans officer. How to Give Up Plastic is quite possibly a speaker we'll be thinking of next year. Sally, you've raised your hand.
Yes, I'm interested in pet food, specifically cat food.
Any thoughts, anybody?
I haven't got a cat.
We have dogs, and we just buy the biggest bag we possibly can. So rather than having lots of small bags, we go for, it must be about 30-35 kilos, instead of buying lots of bags. Some of the smaller companies, their bags are more paper based. Things like Beco Pets, they tend to not be made of plastic, but I don't know any more than that.
Okay.
All our animal food comes in plastic bags. All the hen food, all the oats. I don't want it. Very few come in a paper bag. Very few. But a lot of the companies that do animal food come in plastic, and it's a huge amount of plastic for growers and farmers.
Yeah.
And my cat food comes in tins, but it's always surrounded, you know, by 6s with a plastic wrapper, and I don't know why.
Yes, it's purely for ease of handling, isn't it? For the, you know, there is no need for the end user. It's all
Well,
about,
it could be cardboard, couldn't it?
Yeah, of course it could. Of course it could. If you live in Cotgrave or near here, then remember that we do have Louisa Cook and her family collecting pet food pouches, which on Magpie Road. But they do need to be washed out because obviously, you know, with the residue
Oh
in them.
no, yeah, I don't mean those. I mean really big bags.
You mean the really big bags,
I have
the
to put them
sacks,
in
really, don't you, Pip?
bin.
Yeah.
I have to put them in the black bin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sally,
Corey has posted in the chat, you'll see. She's having big problems tonight. She says they have a zero waste store in Bedford, which is quite central. In a shopping arcade, I go there regularly. They have the dispensers. They also have fresh produce without the unnecessary packaging. This is like the Bingham and Ruddington shops, isn't it? They have been open for around a year now and are still staying open throughout the pandemic. They do local coffee as well. Yes, and some of our, I know the Good Way in Lady Bay sells 200 degrees coffee. And also the Who Gives a Crap toilet roll, which a lot of people like. Yes, indeed. And I know that Sarah has that, don't you? Do you sell quite a lot, Sarah?
Not a huge amount. I think people prefer to, if they're going to go for it, they tend to buy the boxes themselves.
Yeah.
Sally, are you local?
Sally, you muted.
Yes. Yeah.
There is a local pet food company. I'm trying to think of the name of it.
Pedigree?
Sorry, who? What? I missed that.
Pedigree Pet Foods.
No, they're based in either Keyworth or one of the surrounding villages. I'll have to find the name and get Brenda to send it to you. But they might have an alternative or be able to get hold of an alternative that has less plastic. But they are solely a pet company. It might be Pet Bits or something like that. They do advertise in the Keyworth guide that we get. So I'll have a look and I'll pass it on to Brenda for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll do that happily. Well, we're coming up to an hour, which is kind of where we were expecting to end up. Are there any other questions, or is it now time for me to thank Sarah? Okay, so in that case, can I thank you very much, Sarah? I think it's been really, really illuminating. I will copy the chat in case there's anything in there to send out. I'm not sure that anybody has dropped any links or whatever in there, but Sarah may send a few things through. And you will find quite a lot of links to a lot of this kind of thing on our plastic-free Cotgrave website. So there's quite a lot of information on there, and we do try to keep it up to date as various of you find new opportunities. So huge thank yous to everybody and to Sarah. And if you live locally, then maybe this is the week to go and say hello to Sarah in her shop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you in the shop.
You will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Stop your recording.
Right, let me stop the recording.
Did you manage to record it okay?
So,
We hope so.
I hope so. Yeah, I can't see the oh, there it is.
So there
There's
it's
the
up.
button.